Hello, my name is Philippe Girin, a professor in the history department at McNeese State University.
And I'm Megan Martin. I'm a senior at the history department at McNeese. Welcome to Your Grandma Rocks, where we explore the lives of famous women in history.
Welcome et bienvenue à nos amis francophones. Vous écoutez la radio de l'Université McNeese.
On the program today, music and history as we retrace the life of a remarkable woman. She was a mother, a wife, a nurse, a writer, and a reproductive activist.
She invented the term birth control.
She also opened the first birth control clinic in the United States.
And she was arrested for it. Her name was
Margaret Sanger. Along the way, we'll sample some songs solely focused on women's rights. The first song we'll be listening to is The Pill by Loretta Lynn.
You whined me and dined me when I was your girl. Promised if I'd be your wife, you'd show me the world. But all I've seen of this old world is a bed and a doctor bill. I'm tearing down your brooder house, 'cause now I've got the pill. All these years I've stayed at home while you had all your fun. And every year that's gone by, another baby's come. There's gonna be some changes made right here on Nursery Hill. You set this chicken your last time, 'cause now I've got the pill. This old maternity dress I've got is going in the garbage. The clothes I'm wearing from now on won't take up so much yardage. Mini skirts, hot pants, and a few little fancy frills. Yeah, I'm making up for all those years since I've got the pill. I'm tired of all your crowing, how you and your hens play, while holding a couple in my arms, another's on the way. This chicken's done tore up her nest, and I'm ready to make a deal. And you can't afford to turn it down, 'cause you know I've got the pill. This incubator is overused because you kept it filled. The feeling good comes easy now since I've got the pill. It's getting dark, it's roosting time. Tonight's too good to be real. Oh, but Daddy, don't you worry none, 'cause Mama's got the pill. Oh, Daddy, don't you worry none, 'cause Mama's got the pill.
Bonjour and welcome back to Your Grandma Rocks. Je m'appelle Philippe Girin.
And I'm Megan Martin. Today we're exploring the life of the progressive activist Margaret Sanger.
In case listeners are wondering how we produce this show, here's some background. Megan is taking her senior seminar with me here at McNeese, and she's writing her thesis on Margaret Sanger. So I am taking a break today. She developed the show, she picked the songs, and I'll just be asking questions and bouncing off some ideas. So let's start with a softball. When was she born?
1879. She was the sixth child of Irish immigrants.
Wow, 6 children? That is a lot of responsibility.
You think 6 children is a lot of responsibility? Her mother actually went on to have 5 more children. That's a total of 11 kids.
Imagine having to feed 13 people 3 times a day. I have just 4 kids, and that's a lot already.
Sanger's belief in women's rights actually began to develop from witnessing her mother's difficulties and her family's overall economic struggles.
So I'm guessing that Margaret Sanger did not want to have 11 children like her mother?
Absolutely not. She focused on her career instead. Fortunately for Sanger, she was able to attend college with the financial aid of her 2 sisters.
So I assume that her major was not women's studies?
No, unfortunately, this is not available at the time. She graduated as a nurse. That was pretty much the only profession for a white woman at the time, along with teacher and secretary or cook or nanny and maid. After becoming a nurse, she married William Sanger and moved to Westchester, New York. She and William welcomed 3 children in a quiet little neighborhood. Tragically, their house caught fire and was destroyed.
Was anybody hurt?
No, fortunately, they were all fine. However, after that, they moved from quiet Winchester to busy New York City.
Well, that would be a drastic change in scenery. We're talking early 20th century New York City. That was a fast-growing city, but still a bit rough around the edges.
That's true. Two major things occurred right when they moved. First, she and her husband became involved in the local socialist politics. Also, she began to assist women in poverty as a nurse.
Were those two connected, like working with poor women and also her socialist politics?
They sure were. The majority of her patients were working-class immigrant women. Due to their lack of reproductive knowledge, these women faced frequent childbirths, miscarriages, and self-induced abortions.
So she experienced secondhand the struggles that these women were going through.
Exactly, and Sanger believed the best way to help these women was to publish the knowledge she knew with her nursing background. However, it was illegal at the time because of the Comstock Act.
You may have to explain to our listeners what exactly the Comstock Act was all about.
The act made it illegal to discuss immoral subjects such as birth control or contraception.
Which is exactly what we're doing today.
Today it's legal, not back then. However, that did not stop Sanger. She was going to publish her knowledge for women and change the law.
So she believed the best way to change the law was to break it? Because that kind of reminds me of Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement back in the 1950s.
Exactly. She created the magazine called The Women's Rebel, which obviously promoted birth control. But guess what happened to her right after publishing her writing?
I would guess that she got in trouble for being a woman rebel.
Yes, she was immediately indicted by the U.S. government for publishing immoral content.
So I'm assuming that she was arrested for that?
Actually, no. She fled the country and went to England with a new husband. Oh yes, I forgot to mention that her first marriage had failed, but while in England, Sanger further researched her justifications for birth control and began her lifelong concerns over overpopulation. When she was there, she also discovered that England was much more progressive than the United States with contraception, so that reinforced her belief that the U.S. laws were unfair.
So how did she come back to America in the end?
Well, after a year of being exiled, her charges were dropped, and she moved back to the United States with her new knowledge.
That sounds like a new chapter in her life, so we need to listen to a new song.
This song is loved by many and shows the resilience of women.
Here is I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor.
First I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I learned how to get along. And so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. Oh, now go, walk out the door. Just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye?
Welcome back. I'm Megan Martin, the co-host of Your Grandma Rocks, your favorite women's history show on KBYS.
Et je suis Philippe Girard. Vous écoutez la radio de l'Université McNeese.
Today we're exploring the life of Margaret Sanger, a pioneer of reproductive rights. Before our break, Sanger fled to Europe for publishing pieces about contraception in her magazine.
Which was illegal under the Comstock laws. You could not discuss immoral things like condoms or the temperature method. So, what did Margaret Sanger do when she returned to the U.S.?
With her new knowledge of contraception, she opened a birth control clinic in Brooklyn.
Was it the first one in the U.S.?
It sure was. Sanger was the first person to create a place strictly for women and their reproductive systems. That's something to be extremely proud of.
But wasn't it illegal? I mean, you told us earlier that it was illegal to even just speak of immoral acts like contraception, let alone create a whole clinic built around it.
For sure. Sadly, Sanger was arrested 9 days after the clinic opened.
Was she actually arrested this time, or did she just flee back to England?
No, she was actually arrested and her bail was set for $500. That's a lot of money for that time. However, that arrest didn't stop her. It seemed to encourage her even more. She immediately reopened the clinic when she was released.
But the laws still had not changed, right?
Exactly. So she was arrested again. This time she was arrested for distributing contraceptions to women. She was sentenced to 30 days in a workhouse. She was actually offered a lighter sentence if she stated that she wouldn't break the law again. However, she stated, "I cannot respect the law as it exists today."
Really, she was a headstrong woman who was not afraid to stand for what she believed in.
That is a great way to describe her personality. She was known for being a persistent woman who was extremely vocal about her beliefs. After multiple appeals, Sanger had a major victory. In 1918, Judge Frederick Crane ruled that doctors were allowed to prescribe contraception. Sanger's arrest, trial, and appeal forced the United States to discuss women's rights.
Again, I see the parallel with the civil rights movement of the 1950s. Let's do what is right, even if it is illegal, to force the issue into the open. So that's it. Today's going to be a short show. She came, she saw, she conquered. End of story.
Absolutely not. After her arrest, she created something huge that's still used today.
And that would be?
In 1921, she founded the American Birth Control League organization. Do you know what organization that is known as?
That would be Planned Parenthood.
Exactly. Here are the organization's guiding principles. Quote, "A child should be conceived in love, born of a mother's conscious desire, and therefore we hold that every woman must possess the power and freedom to prevent conception except when these conditions can be satisfied." That's not all she did. She also created the Clinical Research Bureau. But first, let's play our next song.
What's up next?
Just a Girl by No Doubt. This is truly one of my favorite songs that discuss the struggles women face in current times. Truly listen to the lyrics and discover what it's like to be just a girl in America today.
Take this pink ribbon off my eyes. I'm exposed and it's no big surprise. Don't you think I know exactly where I stand? This world is forcing me to hold your hand. 'Cause I'm just a girl, a little lonely. Well, don't let me out of your sight. Oh, I'm just a girl, already at my knees. So don't let me have any rights. Oh,
à tous and welcome back to Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS. Je suis Philippe Girard.
And I'm Megan Martin. Today we're covering the life of Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood. Last we discussed how Sanger created the Clinical Research Bureau.
So what was that about?
The Bureau was created because in 1918 a court ruling allowed women to receive contraception, but only with the assistance of a doctor. This bureau was the first birth control clinic that was legal in the United States. A cool fun fact is that it was actually staffed by female doctors and social workers.
Which would make sense. As a woman, I think I would prefer to talk to female doctors and social workers. So now that would mean that her work in women's reproductive rights would be truly finished by then, no?
Absolutely not. If there's one thing you remember about Sanger's personality, it should be that she was an outspoken woman. She wrote multiple books describing her experiences in promoting birth control. She also gave speeches and lectures in churches, clubs, people's homes, theaters, from liberals to conservatives, from workers to upper classes. She would speak to anyone who listened, frankly. You'll never guess what group of people she gave a lecture of birth control on.
Well, like you said, I will never guess, so let's hear it.
She gave a lecture to a New Jersey women's portion of the Ku Klux Klan. Surprising, right?
Well, that is surprising. Now, tell me, she spoke to the KKK because she wanted to reach every woman in America, including women who hated blacks and Jews and Catholics? Or did she speak to the KKK because she kind of agreed with their agenda?
It's complicated. Sanger seems like such a progressive woman who obviously would not be racist. Well, that's the first glimpse at Sanger's true beliefs.
There's more?
Sadly, yes. But first, let's discuss a seemingly positive thing that she did for a minority group. She did work with African American leaders who believed their communities needed birth control. People like W.E.B. Du Bois approved of her work with their communities. Sanger opened up a clinic in Harlem in 1930, completely staffed by black doctors, nurses, clergy, journalists, and social workers.
How can she give a lecture to the KKK and then also provide so many jobs to people of color?
I know, Sanger is a complicated character. She did great things for women's productive rights, but then she showed major flaws.
Where can her true beliefs first be discovered then? You're doing your senior thesis on her, so you're the expert here today.
Well, one of the first indications Sanger was racist was in her own writings.
She openly admitted to being a racist?
Well, she was writing about the Negro Project. The project was designed to give information about birth control to poor black communities. She stated, "We do not want word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and Minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members."
Well, the wording of that quote, that is a bit odd.
Exactly. Though the writing is debated by historians of the true meaning, many believe strongly that Sanger was trying to reduce the black population.
To be fair, a lot of the people who were members of the progressive movement in the early 20th century held views that would be considered racist today. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt, he once called a Latin American president, quote, "that villainous little monkey." And then Woodrow Wilson, he reinstituted racial segregation throughout the federal government. I'm not saying this to excuse Margaret Sanger. I'm just saying that she was living in a time when many white people, including the liberals of their time, had a very big blind spot when it came to race.
In her case, her racial views stemmed from her beliefs in the eugenics movement.
Eugenics, that's another idea that was once popular and that has not aged well.
Yes, but let's discuss this after our next song. Let's lift our spirits a little with a little fun song. Here is Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls. Come on. I'm going out tonight. I'm feeling alright. Gonna let it all hang out. Wanna make some noise. Really raise my voice. Yeah, I wanna scream and shout. No inhibitions, make no conditions. Get a little out of line. I ain't gonna act politically correct. I only wanna have a good time. The best thing about being a woman is the prerogative to have a little I feel like a woman. Chance to get out on the town. We don't need romance, we only wanna dance. We're gonna let our hang down. The best thing about being a woman is the prerogative to have a little fun. Oh, they're totally crazy. Forget them a lady. Men, shirt, short skirts. Really go wild, yeah, doing that in style. Get in the action, feel the attraction. Cover my head, do what I dare. Wanna be free, yeah, feel the way I feel. Man, I feel like a woman. Like a woman.
You're listening to Your Grandma Rocks on KBYS. I'm Megan Martin.
Et je suis Philippe Girard. Today we are retracing the life of Margaret Sanger.
Last we discussed how Sanger became involved with the eugenics movement.
Okay, first, can you briefly explain to our listeners what eugenics was all about?
The cousin of Charles Darwin, Francis Galton, created the theory of eugenics. This theory believed the human population could have more desirable characteristics with selective breeding.
Selective breeding? That sounds like breeding dogs and horses.
Exactly. But if you apply those to humans, they raise some serious moral issues. The people in the movement believed in using methods such as involuntary sterilization to ensure these born with lesser characteristics never had an offspring.
Again, eugenics would be morally repellent today, but that was quite mainstream back in the early 20th century. I would encourage our listeners to look up the Supreme Court decision Buck v. Bell if they're interested, or read the book War Against the Weak by Edwin Black. Eugenics was very mainstream at the time.
This movement had impacts in the United States until the 1970s. By then, over 60,000 people had been involuntarily sterilized. The majority of these targeted were those with disabilities. Many of them were Latinas, Native Americans, and African Americans.
Which brings us back to Margaret Sanger's big blind spot on racial issues. So what evidence is there showing her beliefs in the eugenics movement?
Well, her writings are the best evidence showing her beliefs in the eugenics movements. She was an extremely outspoken woman who wasn't afraid to share her beliefs with the world.
Plus, it was a popular movement during her time, so she wasn't exactly going out on a limb.
Yes, that should be noted. Many people during her time actually believed in it. Like, did you know Teddy Roosevelt believed in the movement as well?
I did, actually. He was really afraid that white people were not having as many kids as brown people and black people, and that bothered him a lot. Race suicide, he called it. So Teddy Roosevelt had a ton of kids of his own to ensure white supremacy. But going back to Margaret Sanger, should we revisit her role promoting good things like women's reproductive rights because of her beliefs in bad things like the eugenics movement?
That's the million-dollar question. Sanger did great things for women's reproductive rights. However, does her motivation in being a reproductive rights activist ruin the work she did?
Well, that's a powerful question. And as I recall, that is the heart of the senior thesis that you're writing for me this semester.
Yes, for her liberal supporters, Sanger's motivation for being a reproductive activist seems to taint the positive work she put in.
Exactly. Do people respect the work she's done when her motivation was classist or even racist to make sure that there were fewer poor people and colored people in the world?
As we stated above, she strongly believed the world was overpopulated. One of the beliefs of the eugenics movement was controlling the birth rate.
So far, so good, as long as the concept would be applied across the board.
Also, she created a clinic which helped the black community in getting access with contraception. Some can argue that she helped the black community avoid unwanted pregnancies, but others can argue she only helped the black community to limit the growth of an inferior race.
So who's right?
In her words, she did believe in the eugenics movement, so she helped the black community avoid unwanted pregnancies, but she also stated she wanted to diminish their population.
Okay, so should her motivation in being a reproductive activist affect how we look at her today? Not to state the obvious, but feminists who embrace access to contraception today tend to be on the left. And those same people are also very mindful of any hint of racism. And that creates a bit of a quandary, no?
Fortunately for Sanger, she died before people began to question her belief. She died in 1966 in Tucson, Arizona at the age of 86.
So she wasn't held accountable during her lifetime?
Unfortunately, no, but her legacy was damaged when scholars took a second look later on.
So how was her legacy damaged?
Sanger created Planned Parenthood, which has clinics all over the U.S. today. Some clinics were using Sanger's name and heroic image to promote their organization.
And then a biography comes out saying that Sanger wanted to sterilize the poor and minorities. Oops.
Yes, some scholars were angry that Planned Parenthood was associating itself with the tainted image of Sanger. After a bit of pushing, Planned Parenthood began to distance itself and rename some buildings.
That's the kind of debate that we have all over America today. The San Francisco School Board raised quite a fuss back in 2021 when they renamed every school that was named after people who had made racially insensitive comments at some point, even Abraham Lincoln. I find it a bit excessive personally, because we don't name schools after Lincoln because he once used the N-word. We do it because he preserved the Union and he abolished slavery. So for Margaret Sanger, I would say keep her name on the building. Just make it clear that she's being honored for fighting for women's rights, access to contraception, but not the other stuff, especially when it was so mainstream in her day. But what about you? Would you consider Margaret Sanger a hero or racist?
Well, clearly she is racist, and I don't know if you could be a hero if you have racist beliefs. I believe we can appreciate the work Sanger put in to help women's rights with their reproductive system while still acknowledging Sanger was a flawed individual.
As if that debate was not political enough, we're taping this in 2022 after the Supreme Court repealed Roe v. Wade, so access to contraception is still very much a case in the news. People who are pro-life, they are glad to raise the issue of Margaret Sanger's racial views because that would put their opponents on the defensive. And Sanger's complicated past provides them with plenty of ammunition. So again, history is not just about the past. It's a battleground that we're still dealing with today.
Yes, what a chaotic and fascinating life. We're glad we could share it with you.
Quelle vie incroyable, en effet.
This program was funded by a Juliette Harner grant for Women in Humanities. Thanks to our donors.
Merci. Au revoir.